Sony! So, this was probably the phone I was most excited to see at MWC. I did find out that the Z is probably not going to be released on United States carriers. You can buy it in the United States through Sony's direct retail channels. It'll probably be about $800 US after tax. It will work on HSPA+, but it doesn't seem that it has the supported bands to be working on LTE. I think the ZL is going to have those supported bands, so that's a little bit of a bummer. The Xperia Z looks quite large in my tiny little hands. You got the black, and you've also got the white version, which I think is probably my favorite. Looks really nice. Then next to me was this very stingy man who didn't really want to let me touch the purple one, but looks really nice as well. So let's cut to the chase about the displays. It's got to be either an MVA or a PVA display. It can't be IPS. Just by turning it at different angles, you can see that it's having quite a bit of color shifting. That's something that is not a characteristic of IPS displays. MVA or PVA displays are known for their good contrast ratio. That's one of the pluses of using them. Except for this Xperia Z has something strange that's going on. I don't know what Sony has done with the contrast on this display, but it's about half of what it should be to be considered a good contrast ratio. So shadows and blacks are just not going to be dark enough, but it does have a full range of color. It's got a full sRGB gamut, which is really nice. Curiously, there seem to be some variations, such as with the Docomo Japanese version. It looks more comparable to an IPS display, where this one definitely is not. We're not sure if it's different technology that they're using, but there is definitely some type of variation going on. With its brilliant vibrancy and its pixel density of 443 pixels per inch, up from the iPhone 5's 326 pixels per inch, that is a major increase. And you can also see that here's the Galaxy Note 2 at only 720p versus the 1080p on the right. I think that people are going to be more than willing to forgive the issue with the contrast ratio, but seriously, Sony, get it together. If you could release a panel with awesome contrast ratio, you have a display that's able to have awesome colors, awesome contrast. It would just be awesomeness, awesome sauce, and you should fix it. Really, what's wrong with you? Upon playing with this device, probably the first thing that attracted me to it was just how smooth gameplay was on this. It's got a Snapdragon S4 Pro processor, and it's a beast, really. It's very, very fast. Check this! And the colors still look really nice, even though the contrast ratio is low. It wasn't something that was blaringly obvious at first. So this should give you a better idea of what's going on with those viewing angles. Yes, the color shifts, but honestly, this is going to either bug you or it won't. One other thing that I am concerned about is the fact that this has the S4 Pro processor with only a 2330 milliamp hour battery versus the HTC One, which has the more power efficient Snapdragon 600, and its battery is 2300 milliamp hours. So I'm concerned about battery life on this guy here. I think only time will tell, but it might not be that great. Now, in order to keep this watertight for up to 1 meter and 30 minutes, you can see that there's actually a rubber ring on here. That is what's keeping the water out or the dust out. You need to make sure that you're keeping these flaps closed at all times, or you might end up getting moisture in there or whatever and voiding your warranty. Now, I really liked the flat, edgy design of this phone. You can see that the sides of the phone are covered in glass as well as the back and the front. This is a very sturdy phone. You've also got a charging port there that's meant so that you can try to keep those flaps closed as much as possible if you're able to use their dock accessory. That should, keep moisture out. Now, a good question would be, does this have a shatterproof sheet on it as well? Yes, it does. Sony glues a screen protector onto the screen in order to make it so if you do drop the phone and you shatter the display, the pieces don't fall out, hence shatterproof sheet. It doesn't keep the phone from breaking, but it certainly helps if you do manage to crack your display. Yes, it's on here too. If you don't like it, you can remove it, but just keep in mind, I asked Sony and they said that if you were to take off the shatterproof sheet, it also takes off the Sony logo because it's printed on the sheet itself and not below the glass. So that's something to always keep in mind. Some people are tempted to just put another screen protector on top of this screen protector, but not only does that cause a lot more glare, it causes a little bit of decrease in responsiveness of the display. So this truly is meant to not be used with any other screen protector on top of it. Let's not forget about the crazy durability of this phone as well. Check this.
So, yeah, let's check this. Ready? All right. How if it fell on the front or the back?
Fell on the front.
Fell on the front. Yes, so this has a shatterproof sheet on there, and if you do happen to break it, at least you're able to keep the pieces inside the screen. And he has no fear here. He's just tossing it about like a piece of trash. But actually, it's quite a beautiful phone.
Now, as far as ergonomics and button placement, you can see that the button is actually in an interesting place. I actually like it because it makes it hard for me to accidentally press the button, unlike we have my Galaxy Note 2 here. When I'm turning on or off the display, the button is right where my finger will be at any given time, so I kind of appreciate the strange button placement. The one thing that I really don't like is actually where Sony has put the volume rocker. They have it at the bottom. It's weird where my bottom two fingers are. It should be on the other side of the phone. I think that would be more comfortable. You can see I actually have to strain my fingers. I do have small hands, but there's this whole side that's just wasted. We are really starting to get up there in terms of phone sizes. At first glance, the Xperia Z looks almost the exact same size as the Note 2. Now, the Note 2 has a 5.5-inch display. The Xperia Z has a 5-inch display. I think that it's just the perfect sized phone. Check that out. You can see that the Note 2 still is quite a bit bigger lengthwise and height-wise, but really, I think that we have finally found a size that is big enough without being too overwhelming. I am very happy to say that Sony has fixed the Bravia engine. It's only supposed to apply during photos and videos, and you should be able to turn it off. But on the last flagship, the Xperia T, it didn't turn on and off, and also it applied to the whole system. So gameplay would look odd for a couple of seconds. The colors would change so with the contrast. So they fixed it. It now looks right now, and it can be toggled on or off. As a video blogger, I am incredibly excited with what Sony is innovating with the camera here. Under the focus settings, you can choose a couple of different things. You can do object tracking, which it's actually tracking this phone going around on the screen right now. You've got face detection, and face detection during video. This is something that nobody does right now except for Sony. So of course I chose some oblivious people. You can see just tap on the face, and as they move around, and as you move the camera around, it keeps focus locked on that face. So during videos especially, if I'm trying to record myself, that's something that I absolutely appreciate, because then otherwise it's searching focus instead of staying on my face. So I can actually use this as a blogging camera. So that's awesome. I really appreciate Sony's attempt at a superior auto mode. I did notice that unless you have it on normal mode where you can choose some settings, especially when it's focusing, it doesn't exactly know what it's looking at, so it takes it quite some time to focus or stay focused. So I prefer having these more manual settings, which do work quite well. I can't wait till I can get my hands on a review unit so I can go ahead and test out the HDR in the real world. And here, you couldn't see much difference. There's a little bit of a contrast change, as you can see there, but need to get one so that I can use it out in the environment and see truly how beneficial it is, or not. I don't know yet. One thing that really fascinated me about this camera is the burst mode. It's probably the fastest that I've seen at taking pictures. It's 10 frames per second, and it's 9 megapixels. It's shy of the 13 megapixels, but that's like excessive anyway, and 9 megapixels is still 1 megapixel above the 8 megapixels that we're seeing on the previous generations of phones. The other thing that is fascinating is the fact that you can take pictures using burst mode literally until you run out of memory. That's crazy. I had gotten above 200 pictures and it was still going strong. I don't know what anybody is going to use this for, but I'm sure once I get my hands on one of these, I'll probably do some crazy artsy project showing how to use this. But really fascinating, Sony. Fascinating. And of course, where would you be without a plethora of photo effects? That's quite nice. There's a nice fine grain effect, amongst other things. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool camera. Pretty cool. And we've also got a sweep panorama mode, which works pretty well. You just have to make sure that you're staying on a certain plane and going very slowly. Now here's my result. Should I be worried that there's this dude here that's totally taking a picture of me? I don't know. But either way, I think it's really nice that all these cameras now are having their own type of panorama, and it works fairly well. A cool thing that Sony is working on is the simplification of wirelessly connecting your device to the TV, whether it is the Xperia Z or the tablet, it doesn't matter. What they're doing is they're actually using NFC inside the remote control, and that's able to authenticate the device's ability to connect to the TV via Miracast, which is just basically Wi-Fi direct. It's meant to give AirPlay by Apple a run for its money. That way you can use your Android devices and also throw the media to the TV. So LG and Panasonic and Sony are all coming out with this NFC ability right into the TV. Although I see that the Sony version is the one that has the NFC in the controller, where the other ones you have to go up to the TV and put it on the TV. So it should be interesting in the future. If they can fully simplify this process instead of like DLNA, it might actually be a feasible thing to throw your device wirelessly to the TV without any wires or anything like that. What I find to be especially entertaining about Sony is just how cocky they are. And they have every right to be, honestly. They have a solid product, although I wish that they would fix the contrast ratio of the display because it's just grotesque and terrible. You've got casemate cases, you've got Incipio cases, you've got these leather fluffy things, you've got an amazing amount of TPU cases and hard-fitting cases and leather cases and other things I've never seen before. You've got these really nice stickers. They're like decals that look like wood that goes on your phone. You've actually got real wood-fitting cases. So this is a crazy amount of product support, and it's going to be a very popular phone. It is a very popular phone, and I just wish that we had this coming to United States carriers officially instead of having to buy it outright. So you guys in Europe are lucky. Cheers.